you gave a little bit there in terms of how you've got there. Is there specifics in terms of exposure? I think is a good area to talk about in this industry
Yeah.
specifically, right? Is there any specific exposure that you've had? You spoke about risk and compliance there that has really sort of helped you to be able to apply yourself in more senior roles as they've come about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess there's always some kind of thread that gets you from one place to the other.
Mm.
I having been a chartered accountant, I obviously was, had external audit and internal audit experience, and I started to do some internal audit work, and then I decided to try and go it my own, which was a disaster. But this is the other thread I think that's come through when I've been successful is a friend of mine said, I know that there's someone who's at BP who's looking for some help with some Sarbanes-Oxley compliance. Do you know anything about Sarbanes-Oxley? I went, well, I probably do. Yeah, of course I do. And so, I had a 10-minute chat to someone. They said, come in and do an assessment of where we are and what we need to do. And 3 years later, we were finishing that program. So, I think that your personal connections are certainly something that takes you on. Plus, work out what is that thing that you're good at. And I think the thing that I've worked out 20 years later that I'm good at is transformation. And so and then what core skill do you have? So that audit skill got me into a compliance role. The compliance role got me into a risk role. Again, I was, right place, right time is some of it. So we were finishing the Sarbanes-Oxley work, and the CIO that I was working for suddenly got asked, "What are you doing about a payment card industry?" And he hadn't got a clue. And he came to me and said, "What are we doing about payment card industry?" I said, "Nothing. Do you want me to do something?" And 3 years later, we'd finished a PCI
Wow.
compliance implementation. And coming off the back of that, there was an opportunity for a global role at BP, head of compliance, and I said I'd really be interested in that. And the comeback was, "Yeah, I'm sure you can do that, but actually we've got a different problem. We've just had an incident, Gulf of Mexico incident, and we need to really strengthen our risk management in the IT space." So, I think there's external events that occur. Companies get attacked, new legislation comes in, and those events, plus a little bit of your knowledge, plus who has always been a kind of stepping stone to where I wanted to get to. I think probably the last thing I'll say about this is when I was looking to come back from the Middle East, and I hadn't got the title CISO. So I had to do two things. One, we've talked about this. I had to get some qualification. I had a piece of paper that said I potentially could be clever enough to do this. So I did a CISSP.
You've not renewed it, Nick. I assume is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. But you needed to have something on your CV that said that you were capable of doing this, right? And then I started speaking to all my friends who were CISOs, and I found actually a guy called Matt Broomhall who was working at TUI. And when I last knew of him, he was doing strategy work at BP. And I said, "Hey, Matt, I see you're a CISO now. How did you get there?" And he said, "Well, funny you should mention that. He got an opportunity internally at TUI and took it and built he became the first CISO there. And he was talking about, well, I need to move on and I need a replacement. So I've got a GRC role. You can do GRC. Come in and do the GRC role, but potentially, interview for, a replacement for me." When he moved on, I interviewed for the CISO role and got it. So there's always been a kind of stepping stone in getting to where I've got to. And I think, you've got to build your luck, I guess. And some of that's how I've done it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think you've put yourself in positions as well. I think, right place, right time. When you reflect on those moments or opportunities that came up, it's actually you've positioned yourself to be able to evolve out of whatever layer or level that you were at that time to be able to impact what the next requirement was. And this industry is very much like that, right? The external threat landscape determines the areas of focus, right, of which direction, whilst obviously interpreting the appetite for risk within the business, and that varies across organization to organization. But I do think you do put yourself in the position, right? Whilst
sometimes you've got to create the position. You've got to create the understanding of need, right? And so in all of those roles at BP, there was either a job description that wasn't right, or there wasn't a job description for the role that was needed. And right. So, in the interview, I said, look, I'm interviewing for this, but I don't believe it's what you need. I think you need this. And that created, some interest in, hold on, we hadn't really thought about it like that. You're probably right. So, I think you do create your own luck. But, when there's a little opportunity, make it bigger, and put yourself in the space to, you may not realize it, but you've got a risk that you don't understand. Let me explain that risk to you. I think I can help you to solve that risk. That's always been useful. And I guess I haven't found many jobs through a direct interview. And I'm right now I'm struggling to find my next role, and I'm struggling with direct interviews. So I think the message is somehow you've got to have a connection into some of these into these roles.
Yeah, no, I think it shows your transformational appetite there, Nick. When you mentioned you shaped your own role, I hope you give yourself a pay rise as well whilst you were shaping that role.
I'm not done so well with that.
Missed that bit out.
Could do better. Yeah.
Very nice. That's great, Nick. I really appreciate your time, mate. Believe it or not, this is the first time we've spoken, and we're going like a house on fire. So that's great. So I really appreciate it, mate. And look forward to meeting you in person in the not too distant future, mate. But thanks for your time. Thanks for your authenticity on this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
No, anytime, mate. Really appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks to all the listeners. Hope you enjoyed. Take care.
Cheers, everyone.